Welcome to the Crime Redefined podcast, produced by Zero Cliff Media. Coming to you from the US Bank Tower, high above downtown Los Angeles. In our podcast, we drill deep into forensics and criminal investigation from the viewpoint of the defense, as well as explore the intersection of the media and the justice system.
Thanks so much for listening to Crime Redefined. This is co-host Mehul Angeria. We hope you enjoyed part one of our interview with Terrence Woods Sr. Now, we present the conclusion of this gripping interview. Let's hope that Terrence gets some good news about his son very soon.
Yeah, it seems like basic investigation would have been to figure out, were multiple keys to Terrence's hotel room given out? And, was there a surveillance camera? There probably was. I don't know what kind of hotel room it is, but that's just investigation 101.
That's 101.
Yeah.
There we go. You said the same thing at the same time. Come on. First thing is, let's see the cameras from the day he came into the day that morning when he allegedly left to go wherever. Let's see them cameras. Let's just give it up. Come on, man. That's first. That's elementary.
Yeah. Something else that was put out there was this assertion that the night before he went missing, that Terrence, I guess, was out at a bar or a restaurant, met a young lady and exchanged numbers. Do you think that even happened? And is that something, if it did, that should have been followed up on. That it's, again, is key, but I would assume that there's been no further follow-up on that.
First of all, you know what I'm saying? My son is very, very private. You got to be close to him. You know what I'm saying? And but when he's close to you, when he's with his friends, they have fun. But as far as now, he's with a bunch of people. And now he sees this young lady or whoever, and he tries to rap her and give her a number. Okay, well, who's the young lady? This mysterious person now. Mysterious person. Anything pertaining to who he's seen or somebody that came in contact with, we can't find out who they are, though.
Yeah, or is it just another ruse put out there to suggest that, yes, he was in the area? We just don't know.
Right.
Well, I was going to ask you a question, but this is something more I want you to comment on. Okay, so obviously, and you talked about this already, that there's one theory that Terrence wanted to fall off the grid or ghost himself. Whether or not that's even possible in the terrain and all of that. As you thought about this over the months, is there any reason whatsoever Terrence would have to want to disappear?
No. My son have a very good life. That's just like originally I told him when he told me he was going to do this last shoot. I said, man, you really shouldn't go. He said, Dad, I really don't want to go. He said, but I already committed myself. I said, all right, well, since you feel you committed yourself, one, outside of him going to school, my son, I gave both of my sons. Matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, I wound up putting his car in the shop because it's been sitting for the last 2.5 years. I gave my son a RT Hemi, sunroof, fully loaded.
Nice.
Paid for. In my son's bedroom, I seen pictures. He has a 56-inch flat screen TV, a fireplace, oak wood, the stuff he liked. And him and his brother's bathroom. They got a jacuzzi, flat screen TV on the wall, the marble sink. That's their bathroom. In our house, they have, in our office in the house, they have a elliptical, punching bag, weights, everything. We live a very, very, very comfortable life. And the thing is this, even by my son not working, he ain't have to pay no bills. So money, it wasn't like, man, you got to go get a job, man. You got to go get a job. Sad to say, I still buy my kids are grown. And I have female friends that will be like, you still buy clothes for your kids? You still cook food for them? Those are my kids. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So no, they a hard life, not a hard life at all. That's like my youngest son. Gave him a vehicle. He wanted a new vehicle. He traded in. I said, well, that's your car, no. He's still living home, no. He in a very comfortable house. He don't even have to, he's on one end, I'm on another end. When he come upstairs, he don't even have to see me. He have his own bathroom, everything. So no, they live a very comfortable life.
So it sounds like there's absolutely no reason that he'd want to, fall off the grid for any reason. He sounds like he's got a really, you're a fantastic father and he's got a great life.
And see, that's the thing. If you speak to his friends, I don't know if you spoke to Rochelle and all of them.
No.
You speak to his friends friends of his that knew him from London. Man, he always have fun, man. He always told me he can't wait to go home with his dad. I'd send you pictures, me and him when he was home, me and him hanging out. Every Tuesday, me and him sit in the room. He come in my room, sit in the chair in my room, in the recliner. I fall asleep. He watching. We would watch. What's this show called? The Purge. We watch that. You know what I'm saying? Or I would come in. He come in my room. I fall asleep. Or he go in his brother. As soon as his brother get home from work, he in his brother's room. They downstairs. They cousin come over. They downstairs playing Monopoly together. You know what I'm saying? Christmas time, me and him, we go downstairs. He put up the Christmas tree. You know what I'm saying? So, man, the 4th of July, he came home, 4th of July, 2018. That was the first 4th of July he was home in 7 years since he moved away to go to school. He finally came home. When he came home June 29th, he was home. He mailed all the stuff here. I paid for all the stuff to come home. 4th of July, we had a big 4th of July. They run around the house. Him, his cousin with the water guns. I'm on the grill. You know what I'm saying? We had fun. We had fun.
All right, then let's move. Let's put that theory aside then. So what I want to get into, I've got a couple of questions, and I want to get into like just the rumor type stuff. And I want to make sure our audience can put the nonsense aside, because there's so many, like you said, there's so many people that didn't even talk to you writing stories, and so I want to get it from you. So what is your best theory on what happened to him, and then has that changed over the last 3 years?
My best theory is, when Simon told me this, he said, when I spoke to your son, he said he was highly recommended. And over the phone, when I spoke to him, he said, I knew we had the right person. He said, then when I met your son, he said, all that went out the door. Okay, great. So now, when you spoke to my son, when you speak to my son speak well. I mean, he would get on me sometime, Dad, you don't say that with Dad. You don't do, my son speak very, very, very proper.
I want to stop you there. I want to ask you a question. Something just popped up. So do you know if Simon ever saw your son before he spoke to him?
No, that's what I'm dwelling on. That's what I'm speaking on now.
So he never saw. Never saw him. It was just phone calls until he actually showed up on set in Montana.
Emails. You know what I'm saying? And phone conversation. That's the point I'm making. So you asked that, and that's where I was going. That's the road I was going down. So you just spoke to him. Speaks proper. You know what I'm saying? He was highly recommended. Man. Now this person come and get off. You meet at the airport. This is a person of color.
Yeah, that's actually what popped up, that he hadn't talked to him and no one ever said. And he probably, if he lived in England for a while, had a little bit of a British accent or something, and he didn't sound like he would thought. And then when he saw him get off the plane, he's like,
he's a person of, he's this color. Dark complexion person, as you all say. You know what I'm saying? He's highly recommended. And then when you check his portfolio, man, he graduated from University of Maryland. He got a double master's degree from Richmond College in London. He has this portfolio. Man, wow. But then you see this person, your whole crew, your whole staff, all of you are white people. Now you see this here young black man, and now you tell me when he was there, sent him to the store to get me some fruit, and he couldn't even get the right fruit for me. What the hell? He didn't come here to be your maid.
So let me ask you the question again. What do you think happened then?
I think that something was going on. My son wasn't really feeling it. He wasn't really going for it. And if he said he wanted to leave, he told them my mother's having a surgery, thinking they would say, okay, you can leave on the airport. When they told me, he told them on Thursday, his mother was having surgery Saturday, but they couldn't get him a flight until next Wednesday. Well, when I got there, it was before when there was no snow on the ground, wasn't no bad weather like that. So why would he have to wait from Thursday to Wednesday? I still haven't seen no canceled flight ticket, nothing from the airport saying it was even a flight there for him. This is all, once again, word of mouth. that what you all are telling me took place.
So you think there was like maybe a fight or that got out of hand or something?
I think maybe somebody wanted him to do something that he didn't want to do. Maybe he saw something that he should not have seen, and they was afraid he wasn't one of the guys, one of the people, one of the crew, and he would say something about it. And maybe he could have been pushed, shoved, and it got out of hand, and something went wrong and went totally left field, and they had to clean it up.
Yeah, there's a risk to that because if these guys are all British nationals, the last thing they want to do is get into an American court system.
You're all out. You got all of them out of here.
You know, I want to ask you something because there was I remember the interview that the podcast interview, and that was then, and this is obviously almost 3 years later, 2.5 years later. Have you gone to the location where he physically went missing yet?
No.
Okay.
To be honest with you, only way I will go to Idaho, I have to have a bunch of family members and a bunch of people with me. I will not go to that place by myself or just me and my ex-wife if you paid the ticket and put me in the best hotel out there. Because I'm not going to disappear like that.
No, I can't say I blame you.
Right.
I want to, so there's no way of you knowing. I want to ask something that stuck out to me watching the Dr. Phil. So they showed a number of photographs of the area in the Penman mine, right?
Yes.
And then one of the areas, one of the images that they kept showing a number of times, we actually have the video of it, of the show, and they kept showing a cliff. Like they didn't actually say this was it, but they kept showing something that had a drop off. Is there any way? Did your investigator? I have two questions. Did your investigator go up to the location, physically to the location?
He told me he did. I don't have no proof of that.
Is there any way that is there a way to follow up and see if the photograph that they kept showing in the Dr. Phil that looked like a kind of a cliff is actually the area where he went missing? And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm familiar with this area and it is heavily, heavily forested. I mean, it's like if someone takes off within 3 or 4 minutes, they're going to be into the woods and you're not going to be able to see them. But the photograph that they kept showing, if you go back and you look at it, it's bald, looking like it had been clear cut. And so if it had been clear cut, then someone could run down that hill and you'd be able to see him for miles, right? Or at least not miles, but at least see him for 300 or 400 yards if there's no trees to obstruct your view. So I want to know if that photograph that they kept using for the so-called, cliff was actually the actual photograph from the area where he went missing, because I keep hearing this phrase, he ran down a cliff. And to my knowledge, you cannot run down a cliff, and anything probably over, 8 feet, you're going to twist, if not break your ankles. So I'm trying to figure out.
They said, and also, sorry to cut you off, they said it was a 70-degree angle cliff.
Well, that's almost vertical. So you can't run down that,
Exactly. A 70-degree angle cliff. And let's put this on the plate too. At night. Come on, man. Okay. Yeah. Okay. My son was never there, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's
cool. Whatever took place, it took place. First of all, and then this. I'm gonna jump backwards, then forward. He allegedly disappeared on the 5th. I didn't get a call to 7:20 on the 6th.
That's new. We didn't know that.
Yes.
Terrence, as you lay this out, this is so bizarre and mysterious, if you believe a lot of this, that you would almost have to believe that Terrence was abducted by a UFO to buy this story. I mean, it almost has that sort of ring to it.
So you must have read the story that they said he was abducted by aliens.
I didn't read.
No, we didn't.
Story.
Oh, I thought you were being sarcastic. Yeah, that's out there too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's out there too.
So the last person to supposedly, air quotes here, to see and to speak and see Terrence was Cherie, right? And have you, I think you already answered this, have you or your investigator spoken with her directly?
Who's Cherie?
Cherie, the local transportation. She was supposed to the last person.
That's the lady that he was supposed to be talking to her.
Yeah.
And he was telling her how badly he's treated in his family.
Right.
Now, I don't know you from a can of paint, just met you. And now I'm going to sit, and then they said, first they said he was having a nice, and she said he was having a nice conversation and everything. Then he said he had to go relieve himself. And that's when he leaped off the cliff. But before y'all put him leaping off the cliff, let's put this story out here. He said he mistreated by his family. This, that, and other. So we already building up BS to cover up what took place. It's like you built up this story, this hype story with this one woman that I've never spoken to, don't know from a can of paint. And now after she said he was talking to her and they was together all day that day, and then he was telling her all this, now all of a sudden he had to relieve himself and go leap off the cliff. Wow.
And so your investigator never followed up with her?
Man, this guy took money and he told me he spoke to her, never gave me anything in detail in writing. I mean, all I had was money taken out of my account. I don't have the so-called pictures I paid for, documenting the phone conversation, nothing. Let's rewind. They said, did you see where the guy was talking, the guy that lived in the woods, and that's the guy whose house they went to?
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that's the eight. Is that the guy that lives, if I remember correctly, kind of at the top of the hill? He was retired government law enforcement, like ATF or something like that.
And they went to his house.
Right.
That's the house they went to originally.
Right.
So they said that they went to this because now this is a professional company. What you call it, gold mine, whatever the name is. You all are out. This is what y'all do. This is what you do. Y'all go in the woods all the time.
Right.
You all don't have your own satellite phone? Come on, okay. Really? But so y'all say they didn't have a satellite phone. So they had to go to this person's house that had the satellite phone. And this person is the one that was called the 911 and made the accusations of my son being dark complexion and all this. Why would I knock on your door right now? And we in a country where we all speak the same language. And how can you let me in your house, sir, it's emergency. Why would you interpret what I'm saying, telling the police of what happened, and you weren't there? I knocked on your door to use the phone. Sorry, I have emergency. Here's the phone. Now I'm gonna tell them X, Y, and Z. Why would you now say, no, that was the man who lived in the house and he was the one telling the story?
So I just want to clarify something real quick. So what you're saying is if they didn't have a satellite phone, this guy did, which makes sense because of the remoteness. There's no towers out there. So why wouldn't the guy, the ATF or whatever he was that was retired, just hand Simon or someone from the crew the phone and let them say what happened? What you're saying is it sounds like they just fed him what had happened and he was relaying what they said. So
that's what they want us to believe.
Right.
You know, why would that make sense? Like I said, we all speak the same language. So it's not like...
No, you would say, hey, can I use your phone? There's been an emergency, right?
Right. We don't need an interpreter. So
right.
It's an emergency, sir. Okay.
Right.
Oh,
here's my phone, of course.
Crew member fell off a cliff around. Then you get the phone, 911. Hey, yes, 911. One of our crew member, blah, 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 blah. Then, okay. But you say this person, you knocked on his door. But now, if you also read and you also heard what the person said, he said when they came to his house, he said immediately he called when his friends or whomever and went back to the area. They said it was a red ribbon somewhere on a tree where it happened. He said when he got there, he said nowhere in the world he came down there. He said, I was out in my tent. He said, I sleep out in my tent. He said, no one came through here that night. That's what he said.
Terrence, you said something very briefly, and it was very interesting on the Dr. Phil interview. And again, there was no real follow-up. But I believe you said that you learned from an investigator that there was a professional basketball player staying in the area where Terrence disappeared. Yes. And then something happened to where his sons then had to have counseling. Can you break that down a little bit more?
So this is the second private investigator who was, once we found out he was working with the sheriff department, he called me. That's how I found out who he was. I don't know. He got my number and stuff off there. He said, I'm private investigator. I can get any information. So this is how I got your information. Okay, fine. So then he's telling me, man, I know about this case. I've been out there. He said, you know, it was two professional it was two people out there whose father is a professional basketball player. They were there as well. He said one of the young men, after what took place out there, he's now getting counseling. Never once up to the second, I don't have this young man's name. But I say that to say, no one mentioned anything about no other two people being there that were from here, or about no basketball player. None of that's mentioned in nothing. None of that's mentioned in no paperwork. So you know.
Yeah, and along those lines, what do you make of the other lady who went missing the same day that Terrence went missing? The sheriff's department was very quick to say that there's no connection between the two. We can maybe read between the lines as to why they might say that based on what you said, but what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, that lady went missing the same day. They said, 15, 20 miles away from where he was, her and her dog. They found a dog, never found a lady. Okay, that's her. You know, it was another young man. The young man that went missing, and they said him and his friend drove the car in a lake. And when his father got out there and went to the lake wasn't taped off or nothing, and they still haven't found him. Now, the woman that went missing was also a man that went missing, but they allegedly found him, the so-called man. But now, do you remember when that was said to the sheriff? And Dr. Phil asked the sheriff, do a lot of people go missing in your town? The sheriff quote said, it depends. If they're not from here, yeah, they go missing. That came out the sheriff's mouth. And then that's when he said, especially if you're from the city.
That sounds ominous to me. That sounds ominous.
You know, that came out the sheriff's mouth. He said,
I'm not sure what to make of him. You know, I don't. You know, it's hard. I'm trying to figure out like what would his motivation be, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like any of his answers or responses are clean.
Do you remember did you hear when I was on a talk show and a lady, Miss Judy, called the talk show, and she lived there in Idaho, and she said her nephew got killed in the store out there. The sheriff department, they shot him and killed him because they thought he was robbing the store, some Indian dude. And she said they killed him. And they said, she said her two daughters, the day that my son went missing, her two daughters was in town. And they said these big trucks came and went up in the mountain area and then left. Did you ever hear that story?
No.
You heard her talk about that?
No.
Yeah. Yep. Miss Judy. I can send you her name, her phone number, everything.
Yeah, that'd be great.
She said, so you didn't hear the radio show that I was on, Focusville, and she was on the air, and she said, it's blood on the sheriff's hands. I know for a fact it's blood on his hands. My nephew was killed. If you pull up Focusville, when I was on that talk show, and you'll hear the lady that lived in Idaho, and she talk about it and say how her two daughters was there, and the day my son went missing, these two big trailers went up to the mountain and came back and left. Yep.
So beyond the investigators, what other avenues have you been able to try to utilize to find Terrence?
None. I've been trying to get in touch with the FBI. The FBI, we're going to have a field officer. We got to give the story to them. And then once they look over it, then the field officer, if they feel that it's something, they'll call you. I have four case numbers that I called in 4 different times in the last 2.5 years. I ain't hear from that field officer yet. The local police, sheriff department, police stuff here, that's in Idaho. We can't get in touch with people in London. That's out of the country. Now, and then you asked me about his bank accounts and stuff. His bank accounts is London bank accounts. So I called and tried to get the information off his London bank accounts because they said they can't give me no information. And like I told the person, I can have everything, bank account number. I told the person that worked in the bank, I said, sir, my son is missing. I don't want to know the dollar amount in that account. One, they said they paid him. So if they paid him, that money should have went in that account. Right. So I know that me and my father, we put money in his account. The day that he left, I know I gave him in cash just for his pocket, $150 in cash. I just want to know, no dollar amount, if the account is empty, if money had been taken out of the account. Now, if you say from November 5th, 4th, 3rd, that account have not been touched. Okay, there's a dollar amount in there. Good, fine, cool. I know what I have to do to try to take care of that. But just leave me head to the tip of the water and say, no money's been taken out of that account. You know? But if I know money was supposed to be put in that account and you tell me there's a zero balance on that account, tell me the last time money was taken out of that account now. I don't care the dollar amount. Once again, the last time a withdrawal was on X, Y, and Z day.
Yeah, that seems that seems like a vague enough inquiry that they should be able to handle coming directly from a family member in a publicized, missing persons case.
And so, like I said, I don't want to know the dollar amount, but I know it should be dollars in there. It should be dollars in there. The company said they paid him to that account, his London account. That money should be in there if they paid him. So just tell me, yes. No, so that, you know what I'm saying? So like I said, I'm not an investigator. You know what I'm saying? I have very good common sense. And certain things are like 101.
Yeah.
Hey, man, check his bank accounts. Next thing I asked the private investigator to do, flag his passport. See if it's moving on his passport. Private investigator never got me that information. I asked the sheriff department. I told the FBI about it. Flag his passport. Any movement on that passport? Because if he's out the country, whatever, see if it's moving on that passport.
Right.
And then I'm going to just throw this out there. You say he had to fake, he goes somewhere he never been before. He wants to get off the grid. So he go out there and run through the woods, blah, blah, blah. He has a passport. He's been to Africa. He's been to Rome. If he want to disappear, just disappear. If you disappear, you need some type of money or plan to disappear. So I'm not going to go in somewhere I don't know, or leap off a cliff, have a nervous breakdown this morning, whatever, to do all that. And like I said, just going back from the start, let's not even get to the finish line. Go to the start. If you're at work right now and you're having some abnormal reactions or you're going through something, your company, which is your company's responsibility that you're on the clock with that company, is to seek for medical assistance.
I should hope so.
You know? So he had this mental breakdown and you all detained him, not restrained, but detained. And now after he allegedly got himself together, now you still allow him to go to work. Now he's out there and he's acting strange. You say, get this battery, Terrence. They said he didn't know what battery to get. Get this shirt, Terrence. He didn't know what shirt to get. And finally, he tried to grab a drone out the sky. I said, Terrence, that could cut your fingers off. Pause. But now one time did you say, we immediately called for medical assistance. We immediately put him back in the truck, the van, the Jeep, and took him back to the hotel. Not once was that said.
Terrence, I had heard at one point that the sheriff's department basically got pissed at you because they thought you had made some kind of comment in an interview that essentially that they were racist. And
Racist.
That was the reason. Yeah. Can you shed a little bit of light on how they shut you down after they heard that?
Yes. We're going to rewind to the lady called Miss Judy. Miss Judy came on a radio station. Miss Judy said on a radio station, they are racist and it's blood on their hands. This lady from their town just said her nephew she said that on a radio station. Like I said, if you try to pull up Focus Field and pull up the day that I was on the radio station, Terrence Woods, and listen to it. This lady called from Idaho. She's going off on them. She called them racist. Next thing I know, the sheriff said, I called him a racist. I never called you racist, sir. Somebody in your town called you that. Now, you put it out there that I called you a racist. Now these idiotic people that's making these fake stories up, taking negative piece of this, negative piece of that, and creating their own story, and never once spoke to me, never once spoke to his family, never once spoke to his friends. As with Fox 5, everything Fox 5, if you watch the whole 6-part podcast, they speak of everything the sheriff said, everything Idaho said, everything the sheriff said, everything Idaho. They have nothing on a 6-part podcast, doing no interviews on his grandfather, his grandmother, his colleagues at school. When he went missing and the professor from the University of Maryland went on TV, the professor from University of Maryland on Channel 9 said, when Terrence walked in the room, the whole room lit up. I always wanted him in my room. anybody to speak about him that worked with him other than this crew here, speak highly of him. But you don't see on none of those shows that say negative stuff. Any of these little documentaries you see, nothing on there have anything with his family or his friends. Everything on there they dwell on is what Idaho said. Nothing they say, oh, here go his friends. Even on Dr. Phil, he had Rochelle on there, friends on there. They had everything good to say about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they lit up when they talked about him.
Almost, she started crying almost.
Yeah, that's right.
She got in tears. She said, I don't care if I lose my job. You know? So these are people that he stayed with. You know, one young lady, she's in like, I got him his job. I got him his first job. So these are people he know. But any of those negative stories out there, see if they have any of those people in their story. Only people they have is what came from Idaho. There's not a story out there. Like I said, Dr. Phil did a little something, but he didn't do what he's supposed to do. But anyone have a story out there, you don't see none of those stories with, oh, we spoke to a family member. We spoke to a neighbor. We got paperwork and documentation from his doctor's office. Where's all that? But you're creating this here picture and image of this person that have two Grammy Awards, 3 books out, 10 productions of his own, graduated at the top of his class, University of Maryland, got 2 master's degrees. And then, being that I'm bringing up the master's degree, even Simon said, they said he was in a little report, the police report, they said he's someone that never been in the woods before. He's green in the woods. That's in a police report of theirs. That he never been in the woods. Wow.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to paint a narrative. I'm curious, after you were on Dr. Phil, I was wondering if you start to receive any tips, or if there was any non-traditional tools, like if psychics start reaching out to you to shed some light on the mystery of what happened to him. I'm just wondering over the years,
if psychics reach out to me, and people would say, well, just give us do you want to try this? And I just don't, that stuff, a lot of that stuff, man, I got to the point where, if you can't show me no credentials, man, and I was reluctant as hell to deal with you.
Right.
But it's like, I got to try to deal with somebody, right. You know what I'm saying? And, but just a Joe Blow, I mean, I get emails with people, oh, we're this person, we're that person, and we can help you. And I don't even respond to some of this stuff, man. Because like I said, you put my son's name in there, you see a million stories. But how many of them stories? Yes.
So, I mean, at this point, what cards do you have left to play? I mean, you went to the top, to the FBI. Is there any kind of... Yeah, I was just going to say, is there any kind of like civil action, like a lawsuit that you could file to get more information?
I can't go into details with that, but that's an avenue I'm looking up now, because like I said, if I go to work and I'm at work, my company while I'm working on the clock with them, they have a great deal of responsibility for my safety. This is a company that's doing shows. They have episodes of this such and such, what's his name? Dave something Goldmine. They have episodes they go all over the world doing this. And you're going to tell me $1 million operation, and it might be more than that. You're under Raw, which is under Discovery. You all are out in a wooded area doing it, and you all don't have no goddamn satellite phones. You don't have proper. Get out of here, man. Come on, man.
Well, I'll say this about as far as the production side goes. When Terrence took the job, right, they offered it to him, and that franchise, the Gold Rush, is a huge franchise. There's not too many people that don't know what that is. Right. So he knew going in where the locations were going to be. So it doesn't make a difference of whether or not he in the woods. He knew where he was going. It's not like he didn't know. So he would, I'm sure, as a seasoned producer and a world traveler that he is, he can handle going out to a place where at a little bit of elevation with some trees. So that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Because he's been in places. I have pictures with him in wooded areas, and is a moose over there. Pictures with them,
right,
with animals out there, you know what I'm saying, that you don't see in our neighborhood, as they said. Get out of here, man.
I want to ask you a question. Now that you've been through this or going through it, you've not been through it, but you're still going through it. What advice would you have to other families who are missing loved ones like this? What would be the one thing that they could take away?
I mean, to be honest, and I was on a show and they asked the same exact question. I can't give you advice because I can't tell you how to deal with your feelings. And there's no advice to give to the unknown.
Right.
So you could pray for your children. You wish your children do well. As I told my son, if you don't feel comfortable, don't go. So your son could go to work right here, around the corner from you, in your same city, state, town. Your child, your son, daughter, and you pray they come home safe. You never in your wildest dreams think something like this is going to happen. So you give them a cell phone. You give them a cell phone. Tell them, call me as soon as you get there. They call you as soon as they get there. And then they go blank. So it's no way in the situation
nothing you could say.
in, there's no way in the situation I'm in, I can tell you how to prepare for the unknown, because this is the unknown, okay? Even if I'd got a call and they said something bad happened to my son, if a person die, I tell everybody this, when it comes to death, you have closure and healing. And if you believe in God, you pray to God that your loved one go visit him. But you got closure and healing. You put them in a casket, a box, however. But something bad could have happened, but you have closure. I don't know right now, if I'm watching TV now and I see a show come on with somebody running through the woods, I will not watch it. If I see a show right now and have something to do with kidnapping, I do not watch it. I don't know if my son, and I pray that he's not, I don't know if he's in a cage somewhere. I don't know if my son is being tortured. You know what I'm saying? So I can't go to sleep every night and say, hey, I know he passed on and we had this funeral, we had this service, we had this home going, and God is going to make it better, and he's with God. No, I can't say that. I can't say he's with God right now. He could be in the devil's den. And that's the part that hurt the most every day. I pull home in my driveway sometimes, and I just sit in my driveway because I don't want to come in the house yet. Because so much in my house, remind me of my sons, both of my sons, there's pictures in my house as soon as you come in. You know what I'm saying? You go in the garage, they have their water guns in there, there's organ in there, this in there. You come upstairs, man, his bedroom's upstairs, the same way it was the day he left. Only thing get done in that room is it get dusted. Other than that, nothing else get touched. I got his face tattooed on my arm. I got a portrait of him tattooed on my arm. Me and him have the same name. So anytime somebody say my name, they're saying his name. Family members would tell me, you got to be around more family, because I shied away. We used to have all big family events in my house, like I said. My son and them put up the tree. I do all the cooking. We have a great time. But I said this to my family. I say this to people, even coworkers and stuff now. It bothers me, and I move away from a lot of people and shelter myself because I have coworkers and they talk about, man, it's summertime and yeah, man, me and my boy, man, he's varsity and man, we playing, you know what I'm saying? Damn, I don't have that to say about my son right now. And then when I go around family, it's in a prayer, baby T is missed, and we miss baby T and we love him. But yet and still, y'all going home with y'all kids. Y'all going home with y'all daughters. Y'all going home with your family. Y'all can hug your family tonight. If I want, I look at my son's room and sit on his bed or sit in a chair. I don't have my son to hug tonight. I don't have my son to make funny faces with. I don't have my son to come in my room and sit in the recliner and watch me fall asleep. You know what I'm saying? I don't have that. I don't have that. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, even with death, if I know I close the box on him,
right,
then I know he's with God.
Right.
Because he's a good person. But right now, like I said, if I see a show with some goddamn woods or somebody kidnapping shit, I don't want to see that crap. I don't want to see that crap.
You mentioned like all the people that have reached out to you, a lot of nonsense and things like that. But part of the reason that we wanted to bring you on was to help get the word out. So I know how we came in contact with you, but is there anything you want to share with us right now on where if anybody has any information or wants to share it anonymously or whatever, how would they help find your son? Who would and where should they contact you? If you want to mention that right now.
If anyone have any information, you could contact me at TWOODS0129.BJ, B as in boy, J as in Joe, 17 at gmail.com. That's my direct email address.
Okay. That's great. We'll make sure that we publicize that, because you know what? Sometimes when time passes and locals up there, they may have, whatever reason, have a come to Jesus moment or something, and want to send an email or do a call. We want to make sure that we have a way that they can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Well, Terrence, as we have followed your ordeal, we've just really been shocked and disappointed about the lack of developments. I think I told you that we were looking into the story quite a bit about a year ago, and looked recently, and it seems like there's no updates. So, no. One thing, Terrence, is, we don't want your son to be known as the guy who ran down the hill and disappeared. So just at the end here, we just want to kind of give you the floor. Is there anything else that people should know about Terrence or about the case that, maybe hasn't been put out there, or anything else you want to set the record straight on?
Yes. Terrence was a fun-going person. He liked having fun. And like I said, if these people that's putting this false information out, speak to his friends, speak to his family, not take bits and pieces of mess that other people are putting out there that didn't speak to his friends and family. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. That's not good. You know what I'm saying? That's not my son. These people don't even know my son. They're clueless of him. You know what I'm saying? So don't do that. My son didn't jump off a cliff to kill himself, to disappear. Something happened to my son. And as the sheriff said out of his own mouth, when the cadaver dogs got there, they did not smell a scent of my son. When the helicopters got there, they could not find no heat trace of my son. So, even the local man whose house they went to, said when him and his friends went back up there, he said, no way in the world my son could have went off that cliff. But no one is dwelling. Everybody, the people that's putting these little sidebar stories out, they're dwelling on stuff that they got from the sheriff department, stuff that they got from people that made a story out of only what they got from a one-sided story. None of these stories say we spoke to his family, his friends, his school colleagues, his professors. Everything is what people I don't said. How can you know a person if you only been with him less than 24 hours?
Right. That narrative gets out there, and then people just kind of just recycle it over and over and over again, and then that becomes what happened.
Right. You run with it.
Right.
And you're trying to tarnish a good young man's name and legacy over something you are clueless of, to make a story, to think you're selling a story, and you're selling nothing but, lies. And somebody that's out there, and I pray every night that wherever my son is, I just hope God allow him to stay strong enough so we get him home. I don't think my son is gone as far as off the face of the earth. I think he's in a situation. Because like I said, rewinding real quick, you as an individual make a statement to me that my son had a mental breakdown and then say you had to detain him. Detain means hold against your will. Restrain means to hold down if he had this so-called anxiety attack. What did y'all detain him? Something go wrong when y'all detained him? Come on. People, stop reading lies, people.
Terrence, it's been really just incredible conversation, and I hear your passion. And I hope that first of all, if there's anything that we can do, or there's any new developments, you'll contact us right away and let us know how we can help. And because we're willing to do whatever we can on our end to help out and spread the word or referrals, whatever the case is. And I wish we had more time, but it's absolutely been a pleasure speaking with you. And we really appreciate you joining us today on Crime Redefined.
And I deeply appreciate you having me. I deeply appreciate that. And I hope that this gets out. And like you said, someone, may you call it a Jesus moment, a true moment, man, bow down. And if you know something, man.
Sooner or later, someone will. They always do.
Yeah, don't hide it. Because whatever happened to my son, whoever you are out there, it could happen to one of your family members.
Wow. Really, really, really heartbreaking.
Indeed.
This poor man is suffering perhaps more now than he was the day that he got the news that Terrence Jr. went missing. It's really hard to understand why this case hasn't gotten more attention and a proper investigation from our point of view.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's stuff out there. There's Dr. Phil, but I don't know. You expect maybe some celebrities would jump on this, some bigger organizations, but it hasn't happened. And I'm really shocked at how Terrence Sr. has essentially been re-victimized in this process. I mean, from the way he describes it, he's been mistreated by Terrence's coworkers who were on the set, the sheriff's department, the media, and even the investigators that he hired that were supposed to be on his side.
Yeah, that was hard to listen to.
Yeah. So why is this such an uphill climb? And, you probably have to take into consideration some topics that some people don't want to talk about. What about the power and influence of Hollywood? And what about the potential role of race in all of this? So on this podcast, we talk a lot about wrongful convictions and, what are the root causes of them? Whether it's lousy investigation, maybe out and out bias or corruption. And listening to Terrence's interview, you can see how there's at least a potential for that type of injustice in the way that his son's case is being handled, primarily by the things that aren't being done, by the suppositions that are left out there without that kind of hard evidence.
He definitely has a good argument for that, just based on what he told us and what we've seen in the media on our own.
No doubt.
But let's be clear, we're not experts on the Terrence's disappearance. It's something that we are now striving for, and we certainly want to hear all sides of the issue. But on balance, it seems like the media is just going with the status quo of what the sheriff's department and the production company had to say.
Yeah, like you say, I think talking to Terrence is part of our evolution in becoming an expert on this. I mean, you have to go to the source. That's number one. And again, drawing a parallel to criminal investigation and status quo of what law enforcement found. I mean, if you read in any one of my cases, you read the police reports, you would say, oh, geez, case closed. I mean, this sounds bad for the defendant, right? Well, of course, otherwise he wouldn't be incarcerated. But we don't take that as gospel. And because there has to be, you go to a doctor, you get a second opinion, right? So these things need to be independently investigated. Not that it's all completely wrong, but investigations are complicated. Did you look at alternate explanations? Did you follow every thread? Did you look at this piece of evidence? Well, wait a minute, the results in this analysis, are you sure about that? Is there something else that could mean? So none of that has happened here yet. So we really don't have an investigation or, like we said, facts that have been mutually agreed on.
I agree. And I mean, can you really use the word even investigate at this point? I mean, you have to wonder with the private investigators Terrence had were simply subpar, inept, or did they just meet with abnormally high resistance due to the nature of the case and potentially the location? It was very interesting how Terrence Sr. described the small town in Idaho, how everyone instantly knew who he was. That was a little, little Twilight Zone-ish.
That was Twilight Zone and creepy for sure. And then you start thinking about if there is a cover-up conspiracy, this kind of environment maybe is the best place for that, But again, because it is that type of environment, that doesn't mean it happened. But I think Terrence's best private investigator was actually that employee at the police department who surreptitiously gave him the copy of the 911 call. I mean, it seems like that's the only hard piece of evidence that Terrence really has. And that was, kind of ill-gotten, actually. But, there's still a lot that can be done here. So for one,
there's tons. I mean, yeah. Like I said, can you really even say that this has been investigated yet? I mean, it's almost like at minimum just day 2 an investigation, even though we're almost 3 years later.
Yeah, which is sad because, the old thing about 48 hours,
that's like right.
The trail goes cold. But having said that, there's still a lot that can be done. So I think, Terrence needs some muscle on his side. But by that, I mean, probably like a pit bull attorney who can really get in there and make things happen. And it sounds like he made some reference to that there's something in the works. because I don't know what could be done in the civil. We talk about FOIA, information release, and is there something civilly that can be done? But he just needs an investigator just to do the basics as well. It's really sad that he had a bad experience, and I see that too in the criminal investigation world. And man, those investigators, they are key pieces because they're the ones that collect the evidence, help get the experts, all of that. If they're no good, you can't get anywhere. And so, but what do we have? Well, Terrence Sr. has Terrence's laptop. My gosh.
Which is huge.
What a treasure trove of information could be in there. Even if that had been altered along the way, there's no doubt that, a competent computer forensics experts could get in there and find out what manipulations have been made. There's all kinds of metadata in there that even if things were deleted, there's still some kind of trace. What about maybe there's a record of his bank account? Dion, I think when we were talking, you were saying, well, he might even have his login information stored on that computer, or there may be a way to get it. So that's probably number one. Well, how about this? What if Terrence had an iPhone? And if you connect your iPhone like to your iPad or your laptop or something like that, you might even see your phone messages on your laptop as well. So I think the possibilities are endless. Also, you talk to Terrence a lot with the camera. And yeah, you're right. There's the basics of just what are the dates of the photographs, but there's all kinds of metadata in any kind of digital evidence that could be looked at, including on the camera. So those are definitely two good starting points. And again, just somebody to lean on people to try to get some of this investigative material. And what are all the legalities here? If the case is open, if the case is closed, can the sheriff's hand be forced, basically?
Well, I think the key phrase you mentioned a couple of times is just the basics. I don't even feel, based on what I read and heard from Terrence Sr., that even the basics have been met. Yeah, there was the initial search in the area, but I mean, you got to spiral out from there, right? So you've checked that box. Okay, we searched the area, but then you got to start working backwards, and you know this, right? And it doesn't seem like that's been done.
No. So I mean, again, like I said earlier, what are all the reasons that maybe you wouldn't detect Terrence? One is that he was never there. Right. So, I mean, how do you look at that analytically and say, well, it could have been because of this, that, the other. But I mean, certainly, again, tunnel vision, I think. And then, what's to do? Yeah, I do remember the sheriff. There was another incident in Idaho where I think some kids, they flipped their SUV
the rig into a river. Yeah.
And again, there was some discussion about how poorly the family was treated. And I remember that there was a quote from the sheriff like, "Oh, the river will spit him out eventually." It's like, this is 2021. It's like we don't do that. We don't let things, just become mysteries. We have the technology now.
Yeah, it definitely. It was hard to when listening to his interviews. It was hard to determine whether or not he was just flippant about it, and city folks come up here and bad things happen and they kind of get what they deserve, or actually being resistant to doing a real investigation. For me, I still I haven't made up my mind on that.
Agreed.
Just it's crazy. So at this point, we just have no idea what types of resistance and motivations are out there against having the truth come out. Hopefully we'll learn that soon. So let's hope that these Crime Redefined episodes will make a difference and really have an impact on finding Terrence.
Yes. Our wonderful listeners, please contact Mr. Woods with any information you might have. And, please share this episode with people who you think might be interested in it or know something about some of the areas we've talked about. And so let me repeat Mr. Woods' email address because it's a little tricky. twoods0129.bj17@gmail.com. And also, there's a GoFundMe page out there called Find My Missing Son, Terrence Woods. Terrence Woods Sr. has a Facebook page that's very easy to find. There's a Twitter account. The handle is @FindTerrenceWoods. The Woods is abbreviated WDS, so @FindTerrenceWDS. And there's also an Instagram account @FindTerrenceWoods. So hit up all those sites.
Make a donation.
One of them. Contact us. If you've got information, we'll pass it along.
We're easy to find.
Yeah, come on, let's see what we can do.
So we really hope that this episode is helpful to the Woods family. We really do. And thanks so much to all of our awesome listeners and social media connections. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Crime Redefined.
Thank you for listening to the Crime Redefined podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Crime Redefined. Please send us your comments and questions and join us for the next episode.